Hello, and welcome to TTherapistsSay. I'm Jonathan Decker, licensed therapist.
I'm Alicia Decker, CEO of Mended.
It's come to my attention that not all therapists are top shelf, and not all therapy is good. Has this been your experience?
It's true.
Yeah, some of it is rubbish. So we reached out to our Mended community. What is the worst advice you've ever received from a therapist? And the very number one pick was...
Sex will fix everything.
What the hell does that even mean?
Take me to bed or lose me forever.
Why would people say that? Why would a therapist, of all people, what is that mentality? Where does that come from? Because I would never say that. So I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around it. You said you had crap therapy before. Think of that crap therapist. And why would they say something like this?
Well, I think it comes from a couple different issues. I think it comes from oversimplifying and putting really broad general stereotypes on typically male needs and female needs, right? And that there are those out there who believe that, first off, sexual relationship is something you're entitled to.
Yeah.
And it is something along with that entitlement, because you are entitled to it, it is a need that has to be met.
Right.
And then on the far end of the spectrum, there's those individuals who use it as manipulation and coercion.
Yeah, absolutely. I will withhold, right, or I will punish. And some of you are watching at home right now saying, well, sexuality is a need. And I would argue that in a healthy, committed relationship where both people have sex drives, that's true. But let's not put the cart before the horse. You talk about gendered stereotypes. I see the idea is that men need sex. We just need all the sex. And then when we have sex, this tender, loving side is going to come out afterwards. What really happens is dudes fall asleep. But whatever. And then the other stereotype is that women need love and need affection in order to feel sexual. Mm-hmm. And it's treated as if men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and this is just how they are. Have you experienced that to be true?
I think it more has to do with the personality types and the innate needs of the individual. But to simplify it down to a male or a female needs this, there's so much more to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know from being a stay-at-home parent and being with kids all day and meeting what feels like a dozen different people's needs, maybe it's only 5. And being touched all day and holding, and having to hold and care for and pick up, like, by the end of the day, I'm all touched out. Yeah. Don't touch me.
Don't talk to me. Don't touch me.
No touching.
I have come home from work before, and I've been gone from her and the kids, and I'm excited to see them all, and I lean in to kiss her, and she's like, not yet. And I'm like, I just wanted to kiss hello, But you know what's great is later on when you're ready to actually give it, it's beautiful and it's sincere. And I'm we're talking about reversed roles here. I'm definitely someone who needs to feel loved, safe, and respected in order to feel sexual. Otherwise, it just feels kind of cheap. But this idea, sex will fix everything. There's a kernel of truth in that. Not that it will fix everything, but that sex can be healing. That in a healthy, committed relationship where there's trust and closeness, that if we've had a fight or an argument and, make up sex, it's a real thing.
How dare you kiss me?
And it's bonding and it's beautiful. And the bonding hormones that are released, the oxytocin and the vasopressin, are meant to unite us and are meant to join us. And so sex can be healing, sex can be bonding, but in and of itself, it doesn't fix everything. Now, I think this mentality comes from where I've heard it is, oh, well, your husband is being rude and condescending and entitled. I mean, often husband, but it can be wife. But your spouse is being rude and entitled and condescending and self-centered. But it's because they feel rejected and they feel unloved and they feel unwanted. And if you would just, this is the expression used, this is not me, but if they say, if you would just put out, right, or if you would just make yourself sexually available, then all of this would just kind of magically go away. And I don't buy it. Do you buy it?
No, because that puts on let's say I was being rude and grumpy.
This is
and condescending. Because you were not sexually available, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't make me responsible for my behavior. That makes you responsible for my behavior.
Right, that's the idea. Like I can make you happier, and you're I see what you're saying. The idea would be that you are outsourcing your free will and your responsibility.
Right.
That I'm responsible for your happiness and your behavior. And if you are rude, like the way I see it, and I know you see it the same way, we all are responsible for our own behavior. I don't get to blame what I say or do on the other person and say, well, you did this, and if you hadn't have done that, then I wouldn't have said X, Y, or Z. It may feel like that. It may feel very cause and effect. I'm just responding to you. But the only way relationships work is if each person is accountable for themselves. And so the way I see it is it's two separate things.
Right.
Right? If you say or do something and I feel hurt or offended or rejected, then your behavior is one thing, but I still choose my response.
Right.
And I don't get to just lay it all on you. So the problem that I see with the notion that sex will fix everything is that if you are feeling unloved, if you are feeling unsupported, if you are feeling alone, the example I often use is people come to my office, and I've had this happen, where I do one-on-one interviews with couples. I split them up and talk to them each one at a time so they can kind of speak more freely. And the wife says, my husband just sees me as his whore. He just wants me to have sex with him. That's all I'm here for, is so he can come home and have somebody to sleep with. She says, I feel detached. I feel like he doesn't care about me. He doesn't support me. He comes home, he watches sports, he takes his dinner. He doesn't do dishes. He doesn't do cleanup. He doesn't do garbage. He doesn't help put kids to bed. I've been working too, and I've been taking care of kids. I've been doing all of this, and he doesn't touch me unless he's trying to start something. He doesn't just hold me. He doesn't tell me he loves me. He doesn't tell me he misses me. He doesn't tell me I'm beautiful. He is in his own little world all day. And then we get into bed and he's like, hey, baby. And my response is roll over. This isn't happening, right? So this is what the wife tells me. And I've got this picture in my head of the husband being kind of a dirtbag who just wants to use his wife and doesn't care about her. And then I get the husband in for his one-on-one, and he will start breaking down crying, and he'll say, my wife doesn't love me. She doesn't want me. I feel so rejected, hurt, and alone. I think he's been socialized that sex is the way that he can show love. That's the acceptable way for him as a man to show love. And he thinks the problem is that she's sexually unavailable. But the problem is all the things that she listed. She feels alone, like she doesn't have a partner, and she feels used. So this is what...
So she has her needs that aren't being met, that are different than his needs.
Yeah.
And in response, he has other needs that aren't being met, that are different than her needs.
But here's the problem with sex fixes everything. What if I, as a therapist, told her, well, you just need to start having sex with your husband and things will get better? They wouldn't get better. All that would happen is that he would think things are hunky-dory and that he can just keep on keeping on the way he's been, and that she must be happy because she desires me sexually. His needs are met, and he's completely oblivious to how alone and hurt she feels. The problem with sex fixes everything is it puts the cart before the horse. Because if he goes in and he works on the relationship, if he's communicating with her his affection, if he's being as supportive as he can and sharing the load, if he's connecting with her and he helps her to feel loved, if he does dishes, if he puts kids to bed, if he's active and involved and engaged, he's probably going to have a different result when they get into bed.
Right.
Right? And so this is why sex doesn't fix everything. Fixing the relationship tends to fix the sex. Because even if the sex isn't frequent or if it's not great, if we are able to communicate, if we're able to be open and honest, if we're able to be humble and accountable and responsible and make changes, then that extends into the bedroom.
You should be kissed and often, and by someone who knows how.
Absolutely. And it's worth bringing up that we don't have these conversations about healthy sexuality. It's either the extreme, the very Puritan, conservative view that sexuality is bad or not something you do.
And reserved solely for marriage, and not only reserved solely for marriage, but we can have sex, but we just can't talk about it because we don't speak of such things.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's secret.
Right.
And then over on the other end, you have the examples of unhealthy sexuality, of hypersexuality, that objectify people, that use people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
that's often portrayed in pornography or other other extremes.
Pornography, erotica. I mean, we have either we don't talk about it or it's all out on display, but we have very little healthy relationship modeling and healthy sexuality modeling of just being able to talk about it candidly and that it's an extension of a real connection. It's an extension of trust and intimacy and partnership. We don't see a lot of that, so we got to create that. We've got to create those conversations. I have so many couples who can have sex, but they can't talk about it. Or their sexuality is very free and open, and it may not be especially connected to connection, right? And there's lots of areas in between that. So sex doesn't fix everything. Sex in and of itself doesn't fix anything except maybe the temporary urge to have sex.
So often there is a component of not being able to talk about sex and also not having a foundation of healthy sexuality and having to build that or rebuild it if it were, in your marriage, in your partnership. So what are three key things that can be done if both individuals don't feel safe, loved, and respected?
I would say the first thing is to recognize that there are some people who have very low sex drives or who are asexual, and there are some people who withhold sex to control or manipulate, but we overestimate how much that happens. By and large, if there's not a sexual connection, it's because there's not a relationship connection. Mm-hmm. And so the very first thing to do is to work on your communication and your conflict resolution, because that is going to carry into all aspects of your relationship, including your sexuality. Right? Mind your anger, stop and calm down. Identify what you're really feeling so you can express that vulnerable emotion. I'm scared, I'm hurt, I'm afraid, I'm overwhelmed, I'm sad, right? And try and see things from the other person's perspective. When you do that, you could start to have open communication about anything. And so that's the first thing, is to work on conflict resolution, communication.
Well, and speaking about things of a sexual nature are naturally incredibly vulnerable.
Oh yeah, but that's the power of it, is when you are vulnerable with somebody and then that is rewarded and it actually is a productive conversation. It reinforces we can talk about anything and we actually are best friends. And it takes some risk and it takes some getting over the awkwardness of it. But the second thing that I would recommend is to speak frankly and candidly. There are no born lovers, at least that I know of. I imagine there may be people who come onto the scene understanding exactly how to please another person. But the fact is, what your partner likes, what they value, and not even just techniques or what feels good, but also the emotional component. Do I feel safe? Do I feel respected? Do I feel loved? Or do I feel cheap and used? These are conversations to have, because what works in one partnership won't work in another. What's adventurous to one couple is degrading to another couple, or at least to another half of a couple, right? And you don't know unless you're having those conversations. And the third thing is to embrace the imperfection of the sexual experience. Our bodies aren't perfect. I've got a little sniffle right now. This morning, our son got into the car and he was terribly gassy. It stunk so bad. Do you remember? Like, our bodies don't always work the way we want them to, and that extends to sexuality. And yet, in sexuality, there's this mindset of it has to be mind-blowing, or it's not, or we've done something wrong. But the fact is, sometimes things go awry. Speaking candidly, sometimes men don't get hard, or sometimes they don't stay hard, or sometimes they ejaculate too early. Or sometimes women have a hard time, with lubrication, or with arousal, or achieving orgasm. There are so many things that our body being imperfect, there's so many things that could go sideways on us in the sexual experience, that if we panic or feel like this was a terrible failure, then we put this added weight and pressure of, we really got to do this right the next time. Whereas if we can laugh and just enjoy being close to one another and then kind of circle around for the next go round.
Well, and I've heard you talk about this as the good enough sex model.
Yes, Barry McCarthy, it's called the good enough sex model. Couples who are hyper-focused on having amazing sex tend to not have amazing sex. Couples who are focused on having good enough sex, which is about enjoying one another, enjoying the intimacy, the affection, and the closeness, and being responsive to each other's cues, recognizing that sometimes things will go wrong, end up having amazing sex way more often than people who are like, it's got to be good, it's got to be good. And so it's all about relaxing. It's all about learning. It's about saying, oh, this wasn't the best time. So what are we going to do differently next time? So with that in mind, statistically speaking, a lot of you are probably struggling with feeling safe, respected, and loved in your relationships. I want to direct you to our video, What Attachment Theory Can Teach You About Love and Relationships, which will go down that rabbit hole. But for now, this has been That's Therapists Say. Sex will fix everything.
Except it doesn't.
Yep, that was a thing to say. It's not true, but communication, connection, working through things together, aye, that's the rub.
Perchance to dream, aye, there's the rub.
So until next time, if you enjoy what we're doing here, please share, like, subscribe, pass this along, because we are relying on you to help us grow. We're trying to reach and lift as many people as we can. So we want to know, what terrible advice have you gotten from a therapist? Let us know in the comments below.
Let us know below the relationship between connection and intimacy for you. Be sure to keep it appropriate.
Yeah, like a high PG, low PG-13. Like, this is a family-friendly channel for the most part. What do I think about that? I think it's a whole lot